Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and welcome to another episode of the People's Questions, where I answer all the questions you guys have sent me over the past week. I think we got a good number of questions from a few newbies, but before I get into those questions, I'd just like guys give you an update, just stating this, that there were a number of questions that I did get, but I decided to answer them in the comment section. And just so we're being consistent, I'm actually going to answer those questions probably on the day of Wednesday itself. So if you guys have like any sort of like comment notifications, if you do send in a question, be sure to check Wednesdays, because then you'll know if I'm answering your question either in the video or I'm just going to answer in the comment section, just so everyone knows to keep your eye out. So starting off with the very first question, coming from a regular of mine, going by the name of Daniel Villegas, and he wants to know, what is my opinion on Ghost of Tsushima? It's coming from Sucker Punch, popular for Infamous. I think it's been a while since we've had a really great samurai game, and heck, from what I saw at PlayStation Experience, I think last year, which wasn't much, and then we saw more of it at this year's E3. It's definitely first day buy. I mean, I would say like any PlayStation exclusive is a first day buy for me, but this one in particular looks very special, and it's definitely something that I'm probably going to be interested in streaming if that's something you guys would like to see. Next one comes from, I believe no, you're not the first newbie, but your last name's kind of complicated to say. Coming from Mr. Richard Ottoman. I hope I said that right. And you want to know, what do I think of the return of Cerberus nunchucks in Devil May Cry 5? I'm a little bit off about that, because while it's nice seeing an older weapon in terms of timeline come back, I'm a little bit puzzled as for why it has 3 different elemental modes. I was fairly certain that Cerberus was strictly an ice weapon, so where this thing is getting electricity and fire, I have no idea. I mean, maybe if, you know, the 3-headed dog in Devil May Cry 3 could do that, that'd be one thing. But I'm just a little bit put off by it, because there were other weapons throughout Devil May Cry 3. I mean, if we're going to go back and start bringing back old weapons, you know, I always figured that, you know, the nunchuck Cerberus, that was ice, and then you had the twin swords, that was fire, and then you had the electric guitar, and that was electricity. So you know, it just kind of gave me hope that they would bring some of those older weapons back, because I mean, if they bring Beowulf back, you know, I'd be ecstatic. But if they kind of want to keep it all contained into one weapon, you know, I'm okay with that. It's just story-wise, it's a little just, you know, complicated. Next question comes from Gum Gum Dukin, and you want to know, okay, this one was really strange, but if Sidious had given himself a puppet to be the Chancellor of the Grand Republic, do I think that his and Anakin's relationship would have been strained as a partnership, but not really trust between either of them? Okay, here's the problem with that question. That question is not possible if you understand Palpatine's backstory, because Palpatine could not be the could not really find a puppet of his own, because between him and his master Darth Plagueis, he was the puppet. He was the person who was placed to be Chancellor so he could run the government for Plagueis. And so the idea of him having a puppet to run the Grand Republic doesn't make sense, because that's his role. And, you know, it's kind of one of those scenarios where the puppet doesn't want to continue to be the puppet, and he wants to take out the puppet master, and so when he was declared the new Chancellor of the Republic, he decided to get his master drunk and then kill him in his sleep. So it's I don't think that that's possible, because I don't think that Darth Plagueis would have agreed to that. I mean he Plagueis wanted Palpatine to be the puppet. So yeah, I don't really think that's really all that. I don't think that could have been possible. I don't think Plagueis would have allowed that, because that would have gone against the whole rule of 2 thing. I mean, if you think about Maul, you know, even Plagueis stated that, you know, I don't think this guy is ever going to be a real Dark Lord of the Sith. I mean, Plagueis was aware of Maul's training, but he didn't take him all that serious. Next question comes from the Paper Knight. You want to know, when it comes to how edgy a character is, what do I think is too much and what is just right, preferably with examples? Edgy. What do I think is too much? I think someone like Conker's Bad Fur Day, I think, is a little too edgy because of, just from his backstory, how he's kind of like this wisecracking, like, squirrel. But I think that Just Right is probably someone like Dante. Like, Dante can be edgy, but kind of in a playful sense. It's very rare you ever see him get serious. But I would say that Dante is like the right amount of edginess without being too overboard. Next question comes from All-Star Gamerbunk. You want to know, why do I think video game directors don't get as much recognition as movie directors? I just think that because the gaming industry isn't quite as big as Hollywood. Now, I understand that, technically video games bring in more money, but I just don't think it's as glamorous as movies. I mean, movies are more often than some directors. I mean, the thing is that directors, I would say gaming directors probably spend more time on their games than movie directors. I mean, movie directors only spend, maybe 3 or 4 months that I know of, and then gaming directors that spend years. And so you don't see them as often because they work on less projects. It's probably a given fact that if you take a director and a gaming director and you start the careers at the same time, by the end of their careers, like say after maybe 20 years, more than likely the movie director will have had more exposure because without question he will have had more projects than the gaming director. And that's just my opinion. I would say that, some gaming directors are popular within the gaming community, but if you're wanting to expand beyond that, it probably isn't going to work that way. Next question comes from the first newbie going by the name of VBlader1, awesome name, and he wants to know, do I also believe that Cloud's raw physical prowess completely nullifies any of Link's strategic advantage? Some time ago someone asked me about that matchup and I was strictly against it. I did not like the outcome. But as time has gone on, I'm kind of sort of open to the idea that Link could actually take down Cloud at that point, because Cloud Strife in FF7 and Advent Children Cloud are two completely different combatants. There is a massive gap in terms of their skill levels and their approaches to combat. Cloud during that period is, to keep it front, when he's not fighting alongside his friends, he is a blunt force object. And so I think that Link, with all of his experience, I think he would be pretty common with opponents like that. And so the idea of him being able to take down Cloud, at least that version, does make sense to me now. It didn't make so much sense to me not too long ago, but now that I've actually had to really sit down and think about it, it makes sense. I probably would disagree if they used Advent Children Cloud because that's different, but I do think that no, I don't think him being just raw power is enough, because Link has taken down opponents much bigger and much more powerful than Cloud that relied on just purely physical strength, and they've been defeated by Link. So no, I do think that strategically, I think that Link probably could outfight and out-strategize Cloud Strife, at least in FF7. Next question comes from Brady Burrick, and he wants to know, what do I think Virgil's role in Devil May Cry 5 will be? We don't even know if Virgil's going to be back. I know that there have been plenty of signs pointing to the fact that, Virgil's back. There's the person who ripped, Nero's arm off and then got the Yamato. Who else could want his sword back than Virgil? And I know, but I'm one of those guys that's holding out. I don't want to believe that it's Virgil until I actually see him, and I don't want him to be the bad guy. I don't know what his role is going to be, because at this point, if you start asking questions, where's Virgil been all this time? Because it's been well over 20 years since the events of Devil May Cry 1. Especially if it's, to be told that Devil May Cry 5 takes place after 2. And so, I'm not really sure what his role is going to be. I mean, if it ends up being that, Virgil somehow came back after being corrupted by Mundus, and he, wants to continue his crusade that he started when he was 18 years old when trying to gain the power of Sparta, I would just be really disappointed, because I'm like, is Virgil so one-dimensional that that's all he thinks about? I would be really upset by that. I hope that they give him a legitimate purpose, because I don't want to just play a game that's just going to bring Virgil back just for the sake of killing him. I'm not saying you give him like a father-son moment with Nero, but if this is truly going to be the end of the Son of Sparta like era, I would hopefully that I would hope that, you know, maybe Virgil and Dante have some sort of closure or like mutual respect for each other, because I think they do have that in 3, but we don't see enough of it, and that's what I would really hope that 5 does with its ending. So I'm not sure what Virgil's role is going to be. I just don't want him to be the bad guy. I want him to be playable, but I don't want him to be the bad guy. Next question comes from the next newbie, who has a name, who told me that it was kind of German, so it might be kind of hard to pronounce. So you want me to just call you MJ. So, MJ, your question is, in the final battle of Devil May Cry 3, this actually kind of plays into the last question. In the final battle of Devil May Cry 3, Dante stated that he would kill Virgil if necessary. Do I think Virgil would have also gone with this option his goals, or do I think that he didn't want to lose any other family members and he lost because of that? This question is a little bit confusing because we don't even know all that much about the whole Virgil and Dante dynamic. I mean, the way it's projected in 3, it's like they have some sort of hatred, but we don't know why. I mean, there's nothing that I have been able to research or pick up between the two that states that there's any kind of hatred. I mean, it just seemed like Virgil's main goal was simply to get the power of Sparta so someone else didn't get it. Now, Dante wasn't interested in that. He didn't really care about that because he was more focused on his own strength, but it seemed like Virgil was just hell-bent on making sure that someone else didn't get it. And maybe Dante was a little bit concerned that, you know, if Virgil had gotten it, you know, it would corrupt him because, you know, power corrupts absolutely. But I kind of feel like maybe, I mean, maybe he tried that in the game, because I just, part of me feels that like maybe if Virgil and Dante had sat down and talked about this, maybe Dante could have talked him out of it, maybe, but maybe Virgil's too power hungry. But I've never thought that he was fully evil. His plan is still, even after all these years, still very puzzling to me. But do I think he would have gone that far because he didn't want to lose any other family members? The question is, what other family members did he have left? I mean, Sparta's gone, their mother is dead, his only family member that he had left was Dante, and he clearly, you know, if he had conceded Nero, there's no way that he would have known about Nero by the time of Devil May Cry 3. So I don't really understand what family members he didn't want to lose anymore, because he apparently didn't have any problems trying to kill Dante, who is his only family left. So yeah, I'm really not sure. I just don't think we have we don't have a clear enough like vision of what Virgil's overall goal is. I mean, if it's just to gain power, okay, that's pretty straightforward and simple, but I just think for a character that I think is as complex as him, I would hope that he has a much more sophisticated drive than just simply wanting more power, but that's just me. Next question comes from Will Williams. You want to know, how do I feel about the upcoming Rambo 5 movie? I was not aware if that was still a thing. Like, the last update that I heard about a Rambo movie was like they wanted to do a reboot with like The Rock, and instead of being a soldier from the Vietnam War, he was going to be a soldier from like the Iraq War. But I'm not really sure what they could do with Rambo 5. I thought that the last Rambo film did a really good job of kind of closing off the story where Rambo came home after all these years, because he'd been away for so long. So I'm not sure what we'll get with Rambo 5, if that's still a thing. And the last question of the episode comes from Phantom Cities. You want to know, how are things going in my current situation? Any improvements, and how am I feeling? Well, the current situation really hasn't changed. I'm still trying to find a way to get out of Vegas. Like I've said this many times, I really hate being in Vegas. It's just, like I was talking to my brother about this the other day, and I think the reason why I feel like I haven't really progressed in my life as much is because I'm still here in Vegas. I'm a firm believer that nobody should stay in the location that you grew up in. My dad grew up in Maryland, and he established, and he spent years traveling around the world in the Air Force, and he saw all these different sites and all these different locations, and he decided to set up his roots to kind of raise his family here in Vegas. My mom grew up in Compton, California. Also traveled with my dad around the world many times, and they both agreed to establish roots here in Vegas. I grew up here in Vegas, but I want to be somewhere else. I don't want to do anything that allows me to start building roots here. I mean, that's kind of why my biggest problem is I don't really go out and socialize. I literally have no friends to communicate or hang out with or talk to in this city. My closest friend literally is 2 states away, and I wasn't able to see them this year because of circumstances. And it does get somewhat depressing because really my only outlet is talking to you guys and working on videos, and even sometimes that can get stressful. It's like when I don't have a social life outside of you guys. And so it is, you know, it does get somewhat stressful and frustrating because I know that if I was somewhere else, I think things would be better. And so I can only hope that things will change over the next year. And with that, those are the questions that you guys have sent me for this particular episode. I'd like to thank you guys for making this episode possible. If you guys have any more questions for me, feel free to type them in the comments down below. Make sure you get them into me for next Wednesday before I start filming the next episode. And like always, I want to thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.